Please hit that like button if you believe in the strength of a mother's love, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more true stories of resilience. She had just given birth, the tender wound of the C-section still aching, when her husband walked in and asked for a divorce, leaving her for another woman. Humiliated, and with the fresh stitches burning, the young mother did something that left everyone speechless. Amelia held her 7-pound newborn close as she slowly made her way down the hospital corridor. Each step was a battle. The C-section wound seared. Her abdomen throbbed with every movement, and the pain forced her to bite her lips to keep from groaning. Still, she tried to smile, because after 6 years of failed attempts, of home remedies and hormone treatments, her dream of motherhood had finally come true. That day, Mark, her husband, didn't come to the hospital. He said he was busy closing a project and that his mother would pick up the baby. Amelia didn't respond. She simply looked down. She was already accustomed to his absence since the 6th month of her pregnancy. At first, it was for work, then for tiredness, and then he simply stopped explaining. She didn't want to reproach him either. She just wanted to go home, cradle her son, and lay him in the small crib they had prepared with so much hope. She thought of that room where she once believed they would build a family. The taxi pulled up in front of the house. Her mother-in-law got out first to open the door. Amelia followed slowly. As she crossed the threshold, the silence surprised her. She expected to see Mark with a smile and open arms, but he didn't appear. Seconds later, the firm sound of heels broke the air. A young woman emerged from the living room. She wore a tight white blouse, a red skirt, and light brown dyed hair. Her perfume was so sweet and penetrating that it filled the entire room. And behind her was Mark. He walked with a chilling calmness. He didn't look at his son, much less at Amelia. He just stopped, and without blinking said, "Mother, this is Clara. This is the woman I love, and I want you to know it right now." The air in the room became so dense it was unbreathable. Her mother-in-law, who had just poured a glass of water, dropped it with a thud. The glass shattered on the floor, but no one moved to pick it up. The young woman stepped forward, a smile on her lips that wavered between courtesy and provocation. "Hello, ma'am," she said with irony as she looked at Amelia. "I just want you to know, this isn't personal. I'm not stealing your husband. I'm just claiming what belongs to me." Her words were like a knife that didn't stab Amelia's chest, but cut directly into the still bleeding wound on her abdomen, making her clutch her son tighter against her chest. Amelia shed no tears. But then, the baby, as if sensing the tension, let out a faint whimper before falling back asleep. The mother-in-law, furious, pointed at Mark. "What are you saying? Your wife gave birth 2 days ago. Her C-section stitches haven't even been removed yet." Mark sighed impatiently, as if the situation irritated him. "Mom, you know we don't work. We got married 6 years ago, and we only just had a child. She's fulfilled her end. Now, I want to free us both." The mistress added, "I don't want her to suffer, ma'am. We're serious, and we don't want to hide anything." Amelia just stared at them, saying nothing. Her legs trembled, her face was pale, and her hands clenched tightly around her bag. A drop of sweat rolled from her temple to her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. She looked at Mark, not with reproach or questions, but as if trying to confirm that this was the man she had entrusted her youth to. The mother-in-law sat down, bewildered, neither defending her daughter-in-law nor scolding her son. She opted for silence, leaving each to bear their own mistakes. Amelia shuffled into the bedroom. Each step was a sharp reminder of the wound that hadn't yet closed. She carefully placed the baby in the crib and, with an instinctive gesture, laid her cheek on his forehead to make sure he didn't have a fever. Seeing that he was fine, she whispered a barely audible prayer of thanks to heaven and collapsed onto the edge of the bed. With trembling hands, she changed the blood-stained pad for a clean one. Outside, Mark chatted in low tones with the other woman, as if nothing had happened. Amelia leaned over her son, wrapped him in her arms, and whispered with heartbreaking tenderness, "It's okay, my love. Mommy's here." In the living room, the young woman laughed confidently, talking about her idea of opening a shop. Mark nodded and smiled, but his eyes kept darting towards the slightly ajar bedroom door. His gaze was not one of guilt or doubt, but of an unsettling coldness. Near midday, the young woman stood up. She left a bag of fruit on the table as if it were a polite gesture. "I have to go," she said, smoothing her skirt with feigned elegance. Passing the door to Amelia's room, without even turning her head, she raised her voice. "Rest well. You must be exhausted. Don't worry. What's meant to happen will happen." And with that, she left, leaving behind an intense perfume and another wound that wasn't visible, but hurt just the same. Mark left shortly after, without entering the room or saying goodbye to his son. Amelia stayed by the crib, watching her baby sleep, his tiny hands intertwined. Each tranquil breath of the child was another pang in her heart. That afternoon, the mother-in-law prepared food for 3, but only 2 ate. She and the baby. Amelia said she was tired, and it was true. She only drank water and ate a packet of old crackers from her maternity bag. Amelia lay on her side, stroking her son's hair with her eyes open. She didn't sleep, didn't cry, didn't react. Her mind was empty, save for a phrase that echoed, "I'm not stealing anything. I'm just claiming what belongs to me." But claiming what? That man was never anyone's, she thought. Amelia understood that what she thought was a home was just a temporary stop for a man who never knew how to love. Then, she whispered to her son, "You're all I have, and Mommy will take you far from here." Can you imagine the heartbreak and determination Amelia must have felt in that moment? What would you do if your world crumbled just after bringing a new life into it? Share your thoughts below. 3 days after giving birth, when Amelia still couldn't sit up for more than 10 minutes without feeling dizzy, Mark's mistress returned, this time alone. She entered wearing a fitted moss-colored sweater, a knee-length wool skirt, and short boots, as if she had just come from a shopping mall. She carried a simple but expensive cream handbag. She didn't knock. The mother-in-law, who was hanging clothes in the yard, didn't hear her. The young woman stood in the kitchen as if she knew the place and said in a soft but cutting voice, "Hello, Amelia. I came to see the baby and to leave you a gift." Amelia, lying in bed, held the baby with one hand and a hot water bottle on her abdomen. Her face was pale, her lips chapped, sweat beaded on her forehead. The baby was weak from jaundice. He needed phototherapy lights and breast milk. But Amelia had lost her milk the day before. All night she had a fever from mastitis, and the pain tore at her. The young woman didn't look at the baby or ask about Amelia. She just approached, took a pink envelope from her purse, left it on the edge of the bed, and said, "Here are 50,000 pesos. Take them and leave. Don't cling on. We'll take care of the rest." Amelia looked at the envelope as if it were a snake, and then the silence was shattered by a crash. The mother-in-law, who had just entered with a cup of tea, threw it to the floor, breaking it in two. The tea splattered on the young woman's feet, and she furiously screamed, "Do you think this is a market? That you can pay whatever you want and kick someone out as if you were paying for a taxi?" The young woman stepped back, somewhat embarrassed but unrepentant. She shrugged and said, "I thought clarifying things from the beginning would be better for everyone. The child can stay with her. We already agreed." Amelia looked at her mother-in-law. and she returned her gaze. In that instant, both shared a distinct pain. The mother-in-law said no more, went to the kitchen, as if breaking the cup had been enough. The young woman added, "I am a woman, and I don't want her to suffer," she repeated, as if she had done a favor instead of humiliating her. Then the young woman left the house, and the envelope remained on the bed, untouched. At that moment, the baby cried, and Amelia lifted him into her arms. Each movement was a sharp pain in the incision, but she couldn't lie down. The child cried non-stop. There was no milk, only his mother's warmth and the humiliation in the air. That midday, Amelia asked permission to take the baby to the hospital for phototherapy treatment. She couldn't stay home and needed to get out of that environment. Her mother-in-law accompanied her, while Mark did not appear, call, or even text. Amelia waited outside the phototherapy room, watching her tiny son, naked under the blue light, with those glasses protecting his fragile eyes. They were there for almost 2 hours, and in that moment, a dark thought crept into her mind. If it weren't for him, maybe I wouldn't be here. But then, the baby turned his head, looking for her, moving his mouth as if he wanted to tell her something. It was then that Amelia burst into tears for the first time since childbirth. Not a single sound escaped, only tears that ran freely down her face. She took out her cell phone, opened the Notes app, and began to write. Painkiller expenses, 680 pesos. Sterile pads, 380. Oatmeal and milk, 450. Diapers, 860. Taxi to hospital, 1,000 pesos. She saved the note with her son's date of birth as the password. And from that day on, she began to record everything, even what couldn't be measured with money. That night, upon returning, her exhausted mother-in-law spoke to her with concern. "Amelia, the child is yellow. Formula won't make him gain weight." Amelia nodded and decided to get her milk back, even if it hurt, even if her nipples were cracked. She couldn't let her son suffer. In the kitchen, the mistress's bag of fruit was still intact. Amelia took it to the alley and gave it to a recycling collector. Then, she washed her hands, turned on the computer, and opened a design program. An unfinished house project was there. She looked at the design for a long time. Then, she opened a new file and named it My Own Home. What incredible strength. If you're inspired by Amelia's determination, give this video a thumbs up. That morning, the persistent spring rain lasted from midnight until the third chime of the nearby church. Amelia had just put the baby down after the first feeding of the day. Still with a fever and cold sweat soaking her back, she was heating water to ease the pain in her breasts, when suddenly, she heard the familiar sound of a motorcycle. It was Mark, who entered without taking off his raincoat. In his hand, he carried a folder folded under a metal clip and a blue pen. He placed it on the table by the bed, where she used to work, but which was now covered with milk and painkillers. Then, in a cold, dry tone, he said, "I want you to sign these papers." Amelia, her hand on her chest, breathing shallowly, asked, "What is this?" "It's a divorce petition, by mutual agreement. I don't want to drag this out any longer." Silence filled the room, broken only by the rain on the roof and the baby's breathing. Amelia looked at Mark. His hair was wet, his shirt clinging to his body, but his eyes showed no doubt. He continued, "I'll tell you straight. Clara and I have plans, and we can't be in this situation with you." The words cut like a knife. Amelia straightened up, put down the hot water bottle, and opened the folder. 2 letter-sized sheets were filled with their names, wedding date, and the reason for divorce, which read, "Voluntary separation." The pen was there, and Amelia felt strong pressure in her chest at Mark's insistence. Her pale hands, with prominent veins, trembled not from fear, but from pain, rage, and cold. She tried to sign, but the stroke veered, leaving a smudge like blood. Then, she dropped the pen, took a deep breath, and looked at him. "I will not sign anything." 3 words, heavier than any plea. Mark shrugged, put the pen away, and left, saying, "As you wish, but you'll only complicate things further." The door closed. The wind moved some paper tissues. Amelia picked them up, lifted the restless baby, and settled him. Then she opened a cushion, buried her face in it, and remained silent, like a stone waiting for the sun to dry. That afternoon, her mother-in-law returned. The neighbors told her about the man with the divorce papers. She saw the folder on the table but didn't ask, only left a packet of oatmeal and said, "Eat, so you have more milk." Amelia replied almost voicelessly, "I'm not hungry. Leave it there." Her mother-in-law didn't insist. She tidied the table and went out to the patio to comb her hair. That afternoon, Amelia opened her notes on her cell phone and added, "Divorce papers served to a postpartum wife. Reason: new woman wants legitimacy. Damage: incalculable. Signature: impossible." Since Mark brought the papers, the house had grown cold, like a kitchen in winter without a fire. The mother-in-law continued her routine. She woke up at 5, swept, boiled water, cooked, had oatmeal with salt for breakfast, boiled eggs and vegetables for lunch, sometimes dried fish. She ate alone on the patio, without inviting Amelia, but without closing doors or forbidding anything. Amelia, in the attic, suffered pain when moving. The baby slept poorly, ate little, and vomited. She ran out of painkillers but didn't ask for help. That midday, for the first time after giving birth, Amelia decided to go out to buy food. She checked her old wallet. She only had wrinkled bills, saved during pregnancy for emergencies. She took a 500 peso bill, put it away, and went downstairs. Each step was a sharp pain. She bought oatmeal and a preserved egg at a familiar stall. The vendor, unaware she was a new mother, told her, "You should eat it hot." Amelia nodded, sweat running down her back. Waiting 5 minutes was torture. Her hands trembled so much that she hugged the bag of food to her chest. Upon returning, her mother-in-law saw her, but only commented, "Going out to buy food after giving birth? How tough." Amelia replied, "I'm used to it." Her mother-in-law said no more. Before leaving for the market, she murmured, "My son is stupid. Let him face the consequences." That night, Amelia prepared formula because her breasts, cracked and bleeding, produced no milk. While feeding the baby, she opened her old laptop, slow but functional. She reviewed an old house design, a discarded project. She took a pencil and sketched a new plan. A 25-square-meter apartment for her and her son, with a window to the sun and a safe loft. She didn't know if she would sell it, but it kept her busy. The baby slept after the formula. It was 2:30 in the morning. Outside, the wind whistled, and the sound of a bread vendor faded. Amelia thought, "If I don't get up, who will protect my son from people like his father?" Amelia's strength is truly inspiring. Share your thoughts on her courage in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to see more stories of triumph. 5 years earlier, Amelia Brooks was a prominent architect. She designed a series of student houses, minimalist and functional. Her last project before leaving work due to pregnancy was a design for a 3-story building, rejected for not fitting the market. She had it saved in a folder, but that night, she decided to look at it again. Dust covered the corners, but the lines were still precise. She modified the design, adjusting stairs, lighting, and bathrooms, eliminating unnecessary decorations. She worked until dawn, her eyes blurred and her hands trembling. At 6:40 a.m., her phone rang. It was Chloe, a college friend, who promised to hire her if she opened her own company. She asked for the discarded design to renovate some rental houses. Amelia sent the file without correcting the name. Her heart pounded like when she waited for the results of her first ultrasound. At 9, a message from the bank arrived on her cell phone. Account credited with 40,000 pesos for project design. Amelia cried silently, hugging her son. Minutes later, Chloe texted her, "This is just an advance. I paid for the faith you still hold." Amelia saved the message, marked it as a favorite, and titled it, Rebirth. For the first time in months, she checked her bank account, which only had the maintenance cost. Those 40,000 pesos, though few, were hers, earned with her talent, without asking or humiliating herself. That afternoon, she bought a can of better formula milk. Seeing it, her mother-in-law asked, "Where did you get the money?" "I redrew an old design for a friend," Amelia replied. Her mother-in-law said nothing, looked at the can of milk and the baby. That night, for the first time, Amelia ate with her. They didn't speak, but on her plate was hot chicken. Amelia thanked Chloe by email and opened a new folder on her computer named Amelia Brooks Projects. For the first time in months, she didn't put her name as wife or daughter-in-law, but as herself. One afternoon, while calming the baby, she heard Mark's motorcycle. He entered without warning, carrying a dirty plastic bag with a can of cheap formula and small diapers. He threw it on the table. "Here's some for milk and diapers. Don't text me saying the child lacks anything." His voice was cold, but Amelia, with the baby in her arms, didn't respond. She just looked at him with unmoving eyes. Mark, irritated by her silence, pointed. "Do you think you're superior because you earn something with your little drawings? Let's see if you raise the child without my mother." His mother-in-law from the kitchen wanted to speak, but stopped when Mark looked at her. "Mom, she plays the victim, but deep down, she despises us." He looked at the baby and said, "Your mother only knows how to live off others, little one." The child cried. Amelia hugged him, went into the room, and closed the door. The crying resonated like stabs. Her mother-in-law, her hands wet from washing rice, looked at the bag of cheap milk and sighed. "Live however you want. I can't carry this anymore." Mark sat down, checking his cell phone, but his hands trembled. Inside, Amelia sang a lullaby her mother used to sing to her as a child. The baby stopped crying, but his lips remained pressed together. Amelia opened her laptop and tried to work, but she couldn't. She decided it was too much. She wanted to leave and start over. On the 14th day after childbirth, Amelia bathed the baby with guava leaf water. His eyes were opening more now. The incision in her abdomen still hurt. That afternoon, Mark returned, but this time Amelia was waiting for him. As he entered, he placed a thin folder on the table. "Only your signature is missing. Let's not drag this out any longer." Amelia took the paper with an expression of determination. Mark smiled when he saw her. "You changed your mind so fast. You didn't keep the man, but you're keeping the child." Amelia reviewed the document. It didn't ask for assets, house, or alimony, only a handwritten clause. "The child remains with the mother. All decisions regarding his education, care, and life are my responsibility." Mark narrowed his eyes and said, "My son, I'm leaving him with you, so you can be at peace." Finally, Amelia signed. The ink seemed like blood, not from the pen, but from the cut on her fingernail from when she clung to the bed the first night he asked for a divorce. Mark signed and left without looking at the child. His shoes left muddy marks that Amelia did not clean. That night, Amelia packed little: a backpack with clothes, a bag with milk and diapers, the baby's documents, and the laptop wrapped in a towel. Her mother-in-law watched from the kitchen without asking. At 11 o'clock at night, Amelia left with the baby, not wanting to be seen. She took a taxi, hugging her son to her chest. The cold wind seeped through her clothes, but she didn't feel it. Her mind was full of plans, appointments, and numbers. She rented a small room near the market. It was less than 10 square meters, with its own bathroom and a window for morning light. As she put the baby down on a mattress, Amelia looked at the yellowish ceiling and sighed. She sent a message to Chloe. "Officially single and free." Chloe replied, "I'm happy for you. You don't need to be better than anyone. Just don't betray yourself." Amelia covered the baby, looking at his calm face, and whispered, "You are the only reason I left there, and you will be the reason I never go back." The room had stained walls and a slippery floor. The ceiling was low, but for Amelia, it was a beginning. A rebirth after almost dying in her marriage. She paid 10,000 pesos a month. She woke up at 5:30 in the morning. She prepared formula for the baby and opened her laptop. Freelance work wasn't much, but Chloe got her clients, designing houses, hotels, cafes, and apartments, without air conditioning or a desk. She used a plastic chair and a folding table. In the mornings she designed. In the afternoons she took him to daycare. The pay was low, but it included free diapers and milk for single mothers. One rainy night, the roof leaked onto the mattress. The child had a fever and foam in his mouth. Desperate, Amelia wrapped him in a blanket and ran 800 meters in the rain to a medical center. When she handed him to the doctor, she was soaked and trembling. When the child stabilized, the doctor asked, "Where is your husband?" "I'm divorced," she replied. "The child is fine, but you must be more careful next time." That night, Amelia didn't sleep, but she was able to send the plan on time. The client praised her detail, and that month she received 40,000 pesos as an advance. She spent 10,000 on rent, 2,000 on diapers, 3,000 on formula, and saved the rest. One sunny morning, Amelia's cell phone rang. Chloe sent her a link. It was an article titled, "A House with Son," designed by a single mother who faced divorce after childbirth. Amelia read, astonished. It was about her. The design of a simple house with climbing plants and a skylight was under construction in Santa Cruz. The photo showed Amelia drawing, with her son, crawling beside her. The comments moved her. "I admire single mothers. A small house with great light." Amelia didn't reply. She just looked at her son, who was drawing a house with 2 figures, one big and one small. In a downtown cafe, Mark's ex-mistress read the article. She looked at the photo of Amelia and her son, then at her own hand holding a tea. She sent the link to Mark with a message. "You know what? I was wrong." Mark saw the message but didn't reply. In the village, his mother found the article while looking for recipes. She read Amelia's name. She saw the photo and murmured, "She not only raised my grandson, she saved our family's honor." By late June, the heat returned. Amelia worked more. Her designs gained recognition, and a young client commissioned her to renovate a cafe. "Can you work at night?" he asked. "I draw when my son sleeps, from 1 to 4 in the morning," she replied. In a week, she sent a detailed plan and received 300,000 pesos. It was the first large payment she had received in a year. Without thinking further, she called the landlord. "Hello, I want to end the contract early. Thank you for all your support, but I need more space. Moving was simple. 3 bags, one with clothes, another with baby things, another with the laptop. The new place had a balcony for climbing plants and a space for drawing. After Amelia's departure, Mark lived carelessly. He moved in with his mistress to an elegant apartment. But 2 months later, his company fired him for abuse of authority and favoritism. Jobless and without income, luxurious dinners turned into instant noodles. The mistress, seeing the change, left him, leaving a note on the table. It was a mistake to get involved with you. I only wasted my time. Mark returned to his mother's house with timid steps. She didn't hug him. She just said, "You lost the most valuable thing you had by seeking beauty. And look at you now. You have nothing." That night, Mark looked at old photos of his son. He tried to call Amelia, but there was no connection. He slept in the room where their wedding photo used to hang. Now it was an empty space. One hot Saturday, Amelia and her son, now over a year old, ate at a cafe. Mark watched them from afar, with a red wooden toy in his hand. The child saw him and asked, "Mommy, who is that man?" Amelia looked at Mark. Their eyes met, without greetings or tears, just silence. She squeezed her son's hand and didn't answer. Mark left, leaving the toy unopened. That night, Mark wrote, "I want to see my son. You can't take that right from me." Amelia read the message but didn't reply. She put her son to bed, feeling his breath, and whispered, "I haven't lost anything. I have my son, and I have everything." One afternoon, as Amelia opened the door with her son, Mark appeared at the gate, with imported milk, an expensive toy, and a thick envelope. His eyes, empty but hopeful, pleaded. The child, seeing him, hid behind his mother. "Mommy, who is that man?" Mark trembled, his eyes reddened. But Amelia, serene and calm, told him, "That man was someone I trusted, but he disappointed me." Mark tried to get up, but his legs failed him. Amelia entered with her son, without looking back. One Sunday, at a workshop for women on rebuilding life after divorce, Amelia spoke for the first time. "Daylight and my husband asked for a divorce. I ran in the rain without a penny. I drew my first plan in a room without a table. I moved forward, and one day, my son asked me who his father was. That day, I knew I didn't learn to forgive. I learned not to need to forgive." Silence filled the room. As she left, someone touched her shoulder. Amelia turned. It was her son, looking at her with a smile. "Thank you, son. Because of you, I don't need to hate anyone." Amelia's story is not fiction. It represents many women who know how to endure, but also how to rise. She didn't seek revenge. She only protected her son and herself. When Mark knelt, his son didn't recognize him. And that day, he learned that sometimes second chances don't exist, and that we must seize them when life gives you one. Lesson learned. Amelia's incredible journey teaches us about resilience, self-worth, and the power of a mother's love. It shows that true strength lies not in clinging to what's broken, but in finding the courage to rebuild, brick by brick, a life filled with dignity and purpose. Sometimes the greatest victories are not about seeking revenge, but about rising above the pain to create a future where you and your loved ones can truly thrive, proving that your value is inherent and not dependent on anyone else's recognition. What aspects of Amelia's transformation resonated most deeply with you? Share your thoughts and continue the conversation.